Hello, I'm Mr. Howard, and in this video we will be making a flashcard app. So for your project you'll be making your own flashcard app. I've gone ahead and created the app here, and I'll show you kind of the way it looks in the end, and then we'll add some pages to this app so you can see how to code it yourself. Remember, the big difference between games in Touch Develop and apps in Touch Develop is apps use multiple pages, and that's going to be the same here for this flashcard app. So it's currently on the question 3. So if we run this, it goes to the intro page. You could put whatever text you wanted here. We click a button to go to the first question. First question pops up. What type of variable has scope throughout your app? Please list your answer here. That would be global. As soon as we type it in correctly, great job, your score is now 1. Current score is 1. Go to the next question. What type of variable has scope within a single page of your app? That would be a field. And great job, your score is now 2, so we're keeping track of the score. Click here for the next question. True or false, if you have var x equals 5 in the initialize section, you can use the variable x in the display section. That would be false because it would be local to the hit the caps lock. That would be false, and great job, your score is now 3. So that's the way the app works. I'm going to go back and we're going to pick up with the code. So we'll look at just we'll keep it here on question. Actually, I'm going to go to question 2. So the question 2 page, the structure is going to be the same on all of these pages. So let's look at what we've got here. We have an input parameter for the page, and we'll discuss why in a minute. So that's a number, and it's just called S in this case. We have a field variable called answer here, and we set that up in the initialize section, and it is just a blank string. And in the display section, we create a local variable for the display section that holds the score, so temp score. We set it equal to S, which is the input parameter that we are passing when we push the page, and again we'll talk about that more in a minute. Then we use our forms to use an input text line. That's where we actually type in our question, and then we have that field variable answer here that we're using the reference back to it to actually check, and if the answer is equal to field, because that's the correct answer for that question, then we increase the score by 1. We print post to the wall. Great job, your score is now. We concatenate the temp score variable. Remember that temp score variable is a number, and therefore we have to use toString so that we can actually concatenate it. We post all that to the wall. Then we use forms again to create a button. Click here for next question, which you saw, and then we actually push the next page, which would be the question 3 page, and we pass the temp score to it. So going back to that input parameter, so question 3, if we go there, it has an input parameter, and so on page 2, when we push page 3, or question 3 in this case, then we need to pass it the temp score, so we're moving the score onward in the flashcard app, so we're always keeping track of it. So we push question 3, so it goes to the question 3 page, and we pass it the parameter, the input parameter of temp score, so we're keeping track of that. And then once we get to question 3, we are going to right here set this. We have the same local variable in the display section on this page. It's local just to the display section on this one page, but we create that temp score, and we actually initialize it to S, which is the parameter being passed. So that's the score that's coming from the prior question. Alright, so this is all the same structure as you saw in question 2, except we haven't pushed the next page here. So we're still checking the answer. If they're correct when they type it in, we're increasing the score, and then we print that message to the screen. So here we have our forms button. Click here for next question. So what do we want to happen? Well, we want to push a new page. We don't have a new page yet, so that's the next thing we have to do. So we'll go right here, add new, select page. I'm going to change the title of that page to question 4, because that's the next question. Okay, and then we have our initialize section. So we'll start setting this up the same way. Now we need an input parameter, so we go click right here on the private page, add input parameter. We've been using S, we're going to stick with that, so that'll be a number. Okay, so now that we have the page created with an input parameter, we can go back to question 3 here and the page for question 3 and actually push that page 4. So in this section right here, we go to the code section, which is right here, and then we'll select question 4. That's the 4th page for our app here, question 4 page, and then we'll pass it the parameter temp score. So then it'll push to page 4 and it'll send the score with it. So it'll be an input parameter of the score that the user currently has. Alright, so that completes question 3, and now we can start building question 4. So in the initialize section, remember it's going to be the same exact format. We need that answer. So back to page 4. So we're going to create a new variable. So var, we'll call it answer again. It is going to be a field variable that just for this one page, so answer, and we'll set it equal to a blank string because we want it to be a string variable. Now I've created it. Now here's how you make it into a field variable. So I click the name of the variable, and then these options pop up, and I select promote to field. So this menu pops up, I click here, and now we have this little symbol, and it's also listed in the data section. So now this is a field variable that I can use in my code. Okay, then in the display section, this is where, remember, we need to keep track of the score. So we're going to continue to use temp score. This is a local variable to the display section, and I'll set it equal to, remember, we're passing the parameter S, which is the score we've been keeping track of throughout the flashcard app. So I'm going to set it to initialize its value to S so that the score that the user has ran up so far, they can keep that. Then we'll add a new line of code, and this is where we want to actually print the next question. So we go to forms there, and we do input text line. In here, I'm going to grab another question and just paste that in there. Just give me a moment to do that. Alright, so we've got a question. Paste that in there so you can both show and change. Now, this is a true-false question, so I'm going to add that to the beginning. So true-false, you can both show and change the value of a field variable in the display section of your code. So that is our question. And now we are going to, instead of text right here, we want to backspace that, and we want to grab our field variable. So we'll click that symbol there, and then we'll choose answer. That's our field variable that we want to use, and that is a string. And then we want to point back to it, so we'll use a reference to do that. That's just the way that it's set up. We're not using a value here, we're actually using the reference back to the variable itself. So that is the way that you have to set that up. So it's the reference to that answer field variable. Okay, and then we will use that as we check to see if they're right or not. So we need a conditional to do that. So we're going to use an if statement. Remember, this is going to print the question to the wall and post it to the wall and let them enter an answer. So then we need to check it if it's right or not. So we use a conditional. So if, and I need my answer here, so if answer equals, and that question is false because we can post it to the wall but we can't change its value, so that's false. If the answer equals false, then we're going to take our temp score and we're going to let it increase by 1. So the old temp score is equal to temp score plus 1. Pardon me, the new temp score is equal to the old score, what the score was, plus 1. And then we'll add a variable here, and we're going to post a string to the wall. Great job, your score is now, in space, and then we'll concatenate onto that the temp score, and then we'll convert that to string. Now we need to wrap all that in parentheses, so let's do that. and then post all that to the wall. Okay, so we have our own text that we've typed in, great job, your score is now, with a space, and then we're concatenating onto that the temp score, which that variable holds a number, so we have to use toString to actually concatenate it. And then that's it for that section, and we'll add a line of code below this section right here to actually push the next page. Okay, we want the next question, assuming we have another question, and I want to show you that, so we're going to add one. So we use forms, and then we'll use a button, and in that button we're going to say click here for next question. And when the user clicks on that button, I put quotes in there, I don't need to do that, backspace that, backspace that. So when the user clicks on that button, we want to push to a new page. Well, we haven't created the new page yet, so I need to go ahead and do that. So we're going to add new page, and we'll call this one question 5, since that would be next. Question 5. And remember, we need an input parameter because we want to send that score with it. So I'm going to click right here on the private page section, add input parameter. We've been using S, we're sticking with it. So now we have the page that we can push to, and it has an input parameter. We go back to question 4, and we actually push the page. So now we can go to the section for that, which is going to be in the code section, and there it is. Question 5. Notice it automatically does the push for you. You don't have to type that in. And then we are going to pass it the input parameter of our temp score. Okay, and that way when we send or push page 5, the score we've been keeping track of the entire time is going to go to page 5 and be there for it to pick up with from where the user score is. Alright, that is going to do it for this video. So let's recap a moment. So we've created several pages here. We had an intro page, so let's go back through it. So we had an intro page like this. We click the button to go. What type of variable has scope throughout your app? That would be global. So the user types in the correct answer, their score is increased. We pass that score to the next page, so the next question. Then we post the question, allow them to enter an answer. What type of variable has scope within a single page? That is a field variable. Because it's correct, we add one to the score. We then go ahead and push the next page, and we pass it the parameter that is keeping track of the score. So the score is 2. True, false, variable x. Can you use the variable x in the display section? No, you cannot, because it is local to the initialize, so that is false. Score increases. We go to the next question. True, false. You can both show and change the value of the field variable in the display section of your code. That is false. You can display it, but you cannot change its value. So false. Great job. Your score is now 4. And then click here for the next question. There is no question there because we didn't create that in page 5 yet. So let's go back. Look at the code one more time. So page 5, of course, is blank. Page 4 is here. So you get the idea of how to use these pages and to make a flashcard app. You have the code here. You can freeze it, pause the video, and go through what I've already created. Just make sure you understand all of the different parts and pieces that make it work. Okay, that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one.